Hello, guys. I am Shane Davis. I'm here with Yanzi Lin, and you might know me from working in American comic books, and I've been around quite a few movers and shakers, whether it be Paul Levitz, Dan DiDio, Joe Quesada, whoever, Eric Stevenson at Image. And we're going to talk about the comic industry. Once again, that's what I primarily do over here on my channel. But to be honest, news has not been great. And is really sad. It's sad in a lot of ways. Diamond collapse, obviously, retailers not getting their books back from Diamond, so they're being wholesaled. All of this stuff. I think Image came to a settlement and got some of their books. But there's reports coming from IDW to Image to other companies to smaller press that you can tell like Diamond's actually hurting them bad, being either owed money or stock that's being liquidated by the new owner. Where does that put us at? The American comic book industry, propped up by Marvel and DC Comics, obviously saw this happening, and God knows how much money they're owed, Penguin, Random House. So what did these two giants of the American comic book industry that have thrived off the predatory publishing practices do? They decided basically to do a Deadpool Batman crossover to try to inject capital into the direct market. But I've said in previous videos, why isn't this a line-wide event? Why isn't this Avengers, Justice League? Why isn't this Superman, Spider-Man? And again, Rob here picks up on this, and he says, in 2026, we will see Spider-Man, Superman crossover. He said he was pretty certain, and there's new rumors today that this is happening in 2026. Bleeding Cool is confirming the idea of Jim Lee and Dan Mora coming in to do this crossover. Now, for people that don't know, both companies get their book. Again, Marvel did this and DC did this with the Batman Deadpool crossover. There's Batman Deadpool, and then there's Deadpool Batman. And again, these were split up, not back to back. There's like both books come out within 3 months. Tons of variant covers by people you want to see do this. Like there was a Jim Lee Batman Wolverine cover that looked beautiful. It's all fanfare, and retailers have been asking about this forever. Back when the industry was good, back when the industry had people still showing up to shops. And digital was not same day. You had to go into shops to read this book. You cannot get it online in a digital form. So we're going to talk a little bit about this.
Well, the recent Batman #1 by Dan Mora and Matt Fraction sold 500,000 copies. So people are going to be so excited and say, look, guys, the industry isn't dying after all. But looking at it, you have Bleeding Cool, known industry shield, saying things like, it sold 500,000 copies thanks to the blind bag. So they did this thing that they call a blind as a bat blind bag from DC Comics, where they put in all these variant covers, some for blah, blah, blah. And it's like 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000, 1 to 500 ratio. If you're lucky, by golly, you might find yourselves with one of these rare go for Jim Lee blind bag editions, which have sold for our 4 figures at one point, right?
Right. And this is a CGC copied up right now for $850. And what you're probably seeing is speculators jumped in spending like $1,000 on a copy. I'm going to say these are going to become less and less valuable as more and more people are just like lucked out, got one, and they're like, I'll sell it for $200 less. I only paid like $8 for this. Why am I going to sit here and hold out for $1,000? So you're going to see some of the prices in these start to decline. Now, this is obviously CGC, but the reason I want to bring this up is these are the type of things that Marvel and DC are trying to do to inflate a flat tire. The American comic book industry needs money coming in to have profits to make future books. And right now, I don't think being owned by Disney for Marvel, I know for Marvel, the page rates have been going down and down, looking for B rates, C rates in some cases on some books. I mean, Disney isn't giving Marvel any money to make books. And I'm going to say the same is happening probably at Warner Brothers, where they're being analyzed to because we had done a previous video how they were looking. There was a job listing actually for a type of accountant to come into DC and Marvel books, one of those publishers. And basically the books are muddy. Like there's some books losing money and then some books making a lot of money, and in the end they just see a report come into the parent company. let's look actually what we're doing and what we're publishing and the risk assessments we're doing with just publishing comics in general. The bad news that can happen, like say with Red Hood, we could be on the 6 o'clock news and having to pull a book back because a radical leftist has an agenda and wants to celebrate a political assassination. Is comics worth it? Now, in both of these cases, back on the point, there's something really wrong here that nobody's evaluating. Go back to what I said. Why wasn't this a bigger event with multiple months of publishing condensed and advertised as this big crossover between not the characters, but Marvel and DC, right? And get a lot of people excited to go to shops for like 8 months in a row. But instead, it's kind of touch and go, touch and go. Let's see how Batman Deadpool does. Deadpool Batman, we'll both do a book. We'll spread it out within 3 months from each other. And then we'll revisit next year if we're going to do this. Now, there's two things happening here, and they're both bad. One, they don't have the capital to actually pay the respective teams they need to actually do these books. I even argued that the Kevin Smith Daredevil Green Arrow book could have been a one-shot on its own and made more money, right? So why not just do that? Why do it as a backup story in one of these books? The other thing I want to say is, like, what if they're having to operate off the profits of the previous book to be able to even do another book, to have the actual money to, say, put Mora and Jim Lee to work in this hypothetical, plus all the backup material that's going to go in this. So, I mean, that's kind of weird. You would think both parent companies would be all on board on this, and they would actually be so confident in this that maybe they would advertise it but behind some of these movies. Maybe some of these things would have been built up to go with the Superman movie. I don't know. Like, that would have been just as good for Marvel to have that book out during a Superman Spider-Man crossover with that Superman movie. I mean, Marvel would just be lucky enough to tag along and piggyback off of the James Gunn movie. None of this seems to make any sense marketing wise. The other thing that is also bad than just not having the money to invest into the creative teams that these books deserve, right? And this is horrible. It's actually whether the parent companies are holding off and revisiting this next quarter because they don't know how long they're in the direct market game. Now, think about that. This would be like a hospice situation, which I actually think it kind of is for the direct market right now, where the corporate overlords are actually checking back in every 3 months to see if they even want to really go forward with really expensive publishing ventures, right? To actually test the thermometer to see, like, what's the water like? Would we sink in the money and write the check for Jim Lee to do a Spider-Man, Superman crossover? And I'm actually going to say I believe this because I do think, I know Jim Lee likes Superman. And these original boards between a Spider-Man, Superman crossover will go for a mint. So Jim has especially if the American comic book industry is crashing, to grab those originals. That's a retirement plan right there. So, Superman, Spider-Man original artwork by Jim Lee. I mean, he can put that in a vault and cash that in later with his art dealer. I still go back to what I originally said on this. I just think this is a bad publishing rollout. I think this should have been consecutive months. I think there should have been multiple books branded together. And I think they could have provided a type of synergy that there's some of these books that wouldn't really sell on their own. Like, say, like, I don't know, a Green Lantern Silver Surfer book, kind of not an easiest sell. But I think if it was sandwiched in or on the shelf at the same time as a Batman Deadpool book, you could have sold that. And you could have sold that with units that would have been profitable to the retailer, to the fans, to the corporation. So the touch and go of this, very alarming if you really look at it and you understand how much lead time is needed for a one shot. Not that much, because it's just one book. So it's not a lead time issue. It's got to be a money issue. But the whole point of this is to make money. And with money being made, then there's profits for retailers to order more books, profits for companies to make more books. I actually think this will make less money the way they're doing it overall.
I believe with the speculation market, because they started this with the Battle Beast book from the Invincible series, right? They did a blind bag thing. It was
Blind
really
bag
well
with
received.
that, yeah.
Then they did this whole blind bag thing for the Batman 1 Mad Fraction thing. And then they're going to do it again for the DCKO. So I think more than likely we'll see that happening for a lot of this number one or big titles that is going to be launching from a lot of these companies. At some point, it's going to be how much of it is really just the speculators buying up. And then you see all this stuff end up in the quarter bin after who knows what.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's going to be tons of quarter bin books here. And I've said what I had to say before on the blind bag stuff. I like blind box toys. I like that, and a lot of kids do too. It's a thing. I have really good luck always with those, and I like those. I've just never thought of blind bags comics. I like the idea, but I also understand retailers are suckers and will hurt themselves chasing expensive variants. And I don't trust the retailers. Retailers, when it comes to these type of speculatory things, can be kind of like a drug addict. And I know damn well Marvel and DC know that too. And I'm a little concerned by that, because what could happen, especially if Marvel and DC and other publishers, Image, I'll throw in that too, if they continue to chase the blind bag thing, it will inject money into Marvel and DC's pocket for sure. Retailers maybe. And why I say maybe on that is because I'm fearful that a lot of retailers are buying them just so they can open them, not that they're selling blind bags. I'm actually concerned that a lot of retailers are just ordering a crate of these books, opening them up, and then just sitting the books on the shelf. And that's bad, because if the retailer can't get, say, his $1,000 for that 1 in 500 cover, he's effed. And what if he just doesn't get one at all? What if he orders 500 of those and he doesn't get the 1 in 500? What if that lands somewhere else? I don't think these are being shipped out in crates necessarily, like blind box items where you could buy a whole box of those and it holds 12 boxes and you're probably guaranteed something, a full set. I don't think that's how this is operating. I just don't. So you could end up with a comic retailer like losing his farm. This is gambling. The retailers are now gambling with blind bags. They're not guaranteed a full set. So this is an easy bet gambling wise for people like, say, Midtown Comics that order X amount of these anyways. They could sit around and pop these bags all day long and make a shit ton of money. Small mom and pop shops, they start rolling dice on this. They might be paying the price. If you guys will hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notification. Also, if you look down below the link, we have our own comics we make. Annatomic is one we're funding right now. We'll be pulling it down mid-October, so make sure to secure your copy of this. And also, you can buy Inglorious Rex on our shop, and it ships out next day. A lot of people do. This is a prequel series to it. I'll leave you guys with a trailer for this, and we'll catch you guys again with another video.
If fighting was a god, I would worship him. I would bow to him. I would pray for victory. For he only grants opportunities. But behind every god lurks a devil. And the devil wants me to take a dive. My name is Annatomic. And this is how my legend was made.